All right, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to our last strengths convo of the semester. We will take a hiatus through the month of December after today, but today we're going to talk about the talent of relator. My name is Jeff Bennekamp, and I am the Director of Student Conduct on campus. I'm also a certified strengths coach. And as always, I'm with my buddy Brent. Brent, say hi.
Hey.
Brent is also a certified strengths coach, and sadly, today is Brent's last session with us. Brent is moving on to a different institution. My hope is maybe we'll get Brent to come back and do some guest appearances in the future via technology.
Yeah.
He just shakes his head.
I just haven't started the job yet, so don't feel like I can commit to anything quite yet. But yeah, it'd be fun to come in.
Well, we're gonna talk about Relator. I'm assuming most of you are here because you either have the Strength of Relator. Raise your hand if that's you. All right, we have a couple of relators here. And I'm assuming all of you will want credit for FYS for this. And if you do, I will be adding a link in the chat for you toward the end, and you can just add your ID number to that in a minute. So what do we know about relators? I'm excited for this one. This is my number 5th talent on my top 5. And this is the one that I honestly have the hardest time articulating. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, your thoughts on what it means. I mean, we like people. We like building relationships. We like connecting to people. We particularly enjoy hanging out with people that we know. You know, like meeting new people. It might be something that you're good at but that usually comes from another talent. Relators are connecting to people that they like. So if you go to a gathering and there are people that you know, you kind of congregate towards them versus I'm going to go mingle with other people. But beyond that, I kind of get a little bit fuzzy about it. So, you know, the books tell us you like approaching intimacy, you like intimate relationships. And by that, I mean, you like connecting to people on a deeper level. And you're comfortable with getting close to people because that's the only way you think there is to build connection. So that's how you build connection to people, is by offering intimacy and closeness. And that's usually comes from the form of revealing something about yourself. Does that sound like it, Angelina and Maddie? Does that sound like you?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that I would prefer to have like a few close friends than a bunch of like acquaintances.
Yeah. Angelina, is that you? Are we connecting?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel the same way.
All right. Brent, what do you have to affirming those with a relator? What can you say?
Yeah, I think as I was reading through just more on Relator, just to get some background knowledge, because this isn't one of my top 10 or top 5 strengths. I thought it was interesting to read a little section. They talked about like character is something that's really important to folks with Relator, and it's not necessarily about like a title or a role. It's really about like the character of the people that you like draw acquaintances with. And I really like the idea of like, it's really about the depth of relationships, and it doesn't necessarily always come across depending on who you are as a relator. But I think when it comes to like being willing to share, but then you also like open up that field for other people to share their story and be like vulnerable in that moment. And I think that's something that's, you know, you may not always do, but that depth of like vulnerability that you share can promote that in others and build those solid relationships. I think a lot about relators is like, you have your like core squad. Like these are the people you go to when you're making big decisions. These are the people that you might want advice from. These are the people that you might call crying if there's an issue going on in your life. Like you have that like core group of people that is like your base, but they're also like not just in those moments where we're in crisis or there's situations, but that's also like your fuel. So if you have that core group of people and maybe you've moved to a different college than them, it's really important to continue those relationships, continue to cultivate that depth of that relationship that you've had with those people that you feel like are your core.
Yeah, you're getting at it, Brent. And I think what moves on beyond that then is when we start talking about developing, this talent and turning it into a superpower, as I like to say, it's about understanding what circle of friends you're with at the time. And because as a relator, I know I have my church friends. They're my connection, and they're the people I see there all the time, and I can connect to them there. There's my work friends that I can connect to there. There's my neighborhood friends, the guys that live across the street, et cetera, that I feel connected to. I don't need to meet everybody else on the street. I just need to meet the people that are, that I'm already good meeting the people that I'm with. So as we start talking about the developing of it, you're at your best when you're with a stable group of friends. So as you are mostly all first-year students, who is it in your network that has similar interests as you, same majors, how do you connect with them? Because you'll see them all the time, right? You can share classes with them pretty much from now for the next 4 years. You could network and build this group of friends. So one suggestion that I like to share is that find those people that have the same majors, the same interests, and then start working that network of, I want to take the same classes. This person studies like I do, so I'm going to find this person. I'm going to make them my friend. I don't have to be super close to them, but we're going to be together a lot. So I'm going to make that connection with that person, because they could be my study people. They could be my going to classes people, the same core of people. Make sure you take the time to open your dorm room door, your residence hall room door, and meet your neighbors. Like, you need to have this network of people that are close to you so you can say hi to them and just connect to them. So how do you meet those people that are with you or next to you? And you do that with realizing that you don't need to be friends with everybody. I don't need that connection to everybody in my group. So I guess the way I want to form the question is, what is your style of getting to know people? Like, how do you go about doing it? And do you have that figured out yet? I'm going to throw that open to everybody a little bit and just say, do you have a style of meeting people that works for you? Like, I want to build a connection to somebody.
I don't have Relator, but just to fill the silence a little bit, I know for me, sorry, silence is something that I was gonna let it go, but I felt like I needed to talk a little. I know for me, like, I connect a lot with like my learner, my strategic thinking. So like, I know I really enjoy getting to know people at like conferences or in an educational setting of some sort. I'm not continuing my education as of right now, but I know like a lot of my relationships that I have formed in either a classroom type of setting or like a learning environment of some sort. So whether that's like a workshop, whether that's even just a conference, and it might be the thing that's like not necessarily when you're learning, but those things that are associated with it. I know a lot of my relationships that I build like have some sort of structure around it or content around it. So I know that's kind of how I build like really effective relationships.
Well, thanks, Brent. And I think to kind of add on to that a little bit, going from this idea that you don't need to be friends with everybody, but relationships are so important. Maybe being able to articulate what are your relationship deal breakers too. Like, because when you're in the circle, you're in the circle, and this is my relator talking. It might be different, but you're in. I'm an open book. You're in my circle. I'll share anything with you. But once you are out of my circle, and to me it's trust, you know, to me, if you break my trust, you're out and I can bury you. Like I'm not interested in that relationship ever again. Does that sound like you, Maddie, Angelina? Have you gotten to that point yet, or are you pretty forgiving and like, whatever?
I would say like there's a point when you just realize, I guess, that the friendship isn't working or something. I don't know if it's like I've ever had like, oh my gosh, you lost my trust. Maybe a little bit, but
Well,
it's,
to me, it's trust, I would say. I
yeah,
think you probably have other things.
It's like, yeah, once there's kind of something driving a force, I guess, between you, you're like, yeah, I think it's over with now. I don't know.
And you're pretty quick to move on then?
I wouldn't say I'm like quick to move on. Like I realized the point that like, oh, maybe they're not my friend anymore, but it takes a while, but I don't like actively want to hang out with them or, like do that.
Angelina, what can you add?
I would say, yeah, I feel like it definitely would like take me like a while after like, I don't know, I feel like I've lost someone's trust, like, or like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I would say definitely it, I mean, it takes, like, if it was like my best friend, I guess it would take me a lot longer than if it was someone that I had just met, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
of course. There's different degrees, right? You know, if somebody's not willing to open up that intimacy to a relator, like you're willing to open up to them, if you're not going to get that in reciprocation, you're probably not willing to go there with them. Like, this person can't do that kind of intimacy that's so important to us, then I'm willing to just, fine, you can be an acquaintance, but not somebody I'm going to continue to push that relationship on with you.
Do you all, I'm just curious, do you all like really value like one-on-one time with those close people and one-on-one time just with people in general?
I definitely do. My best friend, she actually is going to Northern, and I haven't seen her since probably March. And it's been really hard just because I miss like going to her house or her coming over. And so, yeah, I would say definitely one-on-one time with like the people around me is like really important to me.
You're good.
I would say, I don't know if I so much value one-on-one time, but just like being with them, even if it's in like a group, I honestly, I think I prefer that more.
I think I'm more with Maddie on this one. I think I'm more of I like having a partner in crime to go do something with. You know, like if I think of like social experience, social gatherings and stuff like that. Like if I'm going to go to an event or something, I like going with somebody who's in my circle, and then we do it together. Like we experience the same thing together. The one-on-one time, is if we can do something else, I would prefer that. Like, let's go watch a baseball game and I'll sit next to you, and I'd love that conversation. I'd love to be interacting with you while doing something else. But you could ask my wife, sitting across the table having an intimate conversation, it's not my forte.
Yeah, and I think it's different. It's different for everyone. I'm curious, like, what have you done to try to cultivate that during this time? Like, how have you tried to create those one-on-one interactions or moments when maybe some of those things don't exist in the same way due to COVID?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of my piece of advice to those of you with Relator. It kind of jumps into, you need to find ways to get that friendship connection. So Angelina, your friend from Northern, at least finding a FaceTime moment or sometime a Google Duo moment so that you can, because that's where you get your energy, you get your fuel, you get your rejuvenation from, and that's so important for relators in general. And these are for those of you that don't have the relator talent. When you know somebody does, being able to give that kind of intimacy for them and saying, well, look, I know this is important to you, and as a friend, I need to be able to set aside some time to interact with you at that level, even though that's not my strength. If we move into, as we're, trying to stay a little bit on pace here, going into academics, and how to succeed in academics, I would give you a couple pieces of advice. Make sure you're partnering and seeking out a partner, relationships with those who have the same majors, the same passions like you do, to seek, like I talked about at the beginning, to go through school with. Go through the next 3.5 years, 4 years with them. You don't have to become best friends, but you're going to see each other on a regular basis. So building that connection to them, at least academic connection to them, study groups, partners for projects, et cetera, will be helpful for you. And then if neither of them, or if that person doesn't have Relator, rely on their relationship building strengths, the other strengths that they have that are relationship building. So Brent, I don't have them in front of me, but empathy, harmony, individualization, thank you. These other talents, make sure that you can pull on those talents from them so that you can get that intimacy, because they do have it, they just use it, they just come at it in a different way.
And I think that's also the case for folks with other strengths. Speaking for myself, I have like 6 of my top 7 are in strategic thinking. And just because I have a lot of strategic thinking, strengths doesn't mean I don't build relationships. So it just might be around ideas. And like similarly to folks with relators, we have similar interests that might be like kind of a connection.
Yeah. Finding, and this is how to take what you're learning in school and make sure you're processing it completely. Finding people that are off campus, a network of people off campus that you can share what you're learning with them. So whether that's a group of employees, if you're working another job, or a place where you can go and volunteer or something like that, you need to share what you're learning, because part of your education and part of your Relator talent is giving some intimacy. So you want to be able to share what it is, and it'll help you learn if you have to take what you're learning and translate it into a language that somebody else understands. So making sure you're finding that avenue of doing that. And then my last academic piece of advice is become a mentor for somebody else. So next year, find an underclassman who's going to go through the same major and mentor them, and then find a mentor. Find somebody who has had your profession, is in your profession, or somebody that you can start leaning on. And I'll give you advice on this one. The Alumni Center will connect you to somebody. The alumni office, if you wanted to connect to somebody who's, I don't know, Maddie, what's your major?
I'm undecided, but I'm leaning towards nursing.
Okay, so you're leaning toward nursing today. Asking the alumni office to connect you to a nurse, to somebody who's a recent grad, who you can talk through. We know strengths, first of all, of everybody who's graduated for like the past 6-7 years. So I'd be happy to give you them, and we can find somebody who has Relator, and you can say, look, can we connect? I just want to talk to you. I want to talk about what it's like being a nurse. I want to talk about how you got through school. I want to talk about your profession. I need somebody to help coach me that you can start building a relationship with. And that goes for anybody. I'm 100% on board with finding a mentor and an alum that you can talk to. The Augie community is special in that way. Our alums do want to give back and want to meet with college students, current students, and connect to them. And if you wanted to take advantage of one of the Augie's greatest resources, it's leveraging the community after you graduate. So,
I think too, as you think
yeah,
about outside the classroom, like since depths of relationships are really important, and I know Jeff's talked about being a mentor, look for different opportunities on campus where you can connect with people deeply. That doesn't mean you can't give admissions tours and be with people for an hour. Like you probably have other talents that are suited for that as well. But if you're wanting to like build really in-depth relationships, finding a way, especially as you think of like first year students, there are so many opportunities, whether that's with being a VA, taking a group of a Viking Guide group through. The IPO has different folks who also help with international students, ACE ambassadors, Journey scholars. If you have the opportunity to interact with that group in any way, just think of all the different opportunities that you have to make some of those connections. Because especially some of those will especially build those depths of relationships that you might create that mentee-mentor relationship, or even just those deep friendships that you want in college.
And the reason that's so important is that leads directly toward your academic success. So it's not just about building a relationship and building a friend. It's about building a person that you get to share your experiences with. And by sharing your experiences, you're actually deepening what you're learning because you're able to articulate it in a language, translate it into something that's useful for you. So it's not just about building relationships, it's about deepening your academic profile and experience. And then finally, let's talk about just a little bit about careers. As you start searching for jobs, and during your college career, I hope you try out a bunch of different jobs. It's like going to a store and trying on different clothes. You want to see what kind of work environment you want to work in. I highly recommend job hopping during college. That's a great time for you to try different professions or different atmospheres. What you want to get good at is understanding what kind of culture you want to work in. So when you do pick that professional job and you start working for the next bunch of years at the same place, you want to make sure that you're picking a culture that fosters relationships. You want to work in a place that lets you have friendships, that encourages friendships amongst coworkers. That may seem routine to some of you because that's the only experience you know, but for others, it is not. For other environments, they're like, oh no, we don't fraternize here. We don't, no. We come, we go sit in our little cubicle all day, we work in our cubicle, we eat lunch at our cubicle, and then we go to our families and friends. That's not the work environment for you. If you have Relator, that's going to be a rough existence. So making sure you understand what culture works best with your style, which is about enjoyment of work.
And I think as you know, whether it's a part-time job, whether it's, that internship that you get over the summer in the area that you're looking into, I think that word culture, and specifically asking places that you apply and places that you work at, can you give me an example of what the workplace culture looks like? Or ask them, what is your workplace culture? And give me an example of how that applies to your employees and your experiences working there. Because giving that example will also give a better understanding of like, what's the depth of the relationships, or can you be genuine and authentic and transparent? Because those are a lot of the words that like folks with Relator, they want that authenticity. They want, to be genuine and transparent with others.
Right. All right. So any questions from anybody about Relator? Something we didn't talk about? Something we should articulate more? If not, we're going to go around the room like we do every time and ask for one takeaway from everybody. So where should we start? Let's popcorn around. Let's start with somebody new. Devani, did I say that correctly? What's one takeaway?
It's Debony.
Debony, sorry.
One takeaway I have is that My best friend, she probably has the relator skill, or not
Okay,
skill, but so because that's like her kind of like language is like quality time and like being really close and that's been hard since college because we both go to different colleges. So I'm gonna
sure.
try to like hang out with her more, like get to know like that side of her better
Excellent.
and try to
That's
like help
is
that.
going to be important for her,
Mhm.
certainly. And like I would say, even simple reaches out on FaceTime, face-to-face interactions are really important for relators. Like they we pick up so many nonverbals, um, and that leads to the intimacy that we're also trying to give off. So, good job, Debony. Thanks, Grant. One takeaway.
I learned more about what this trade has to offer, and it's not one of mine, but I can see where I relate with it personally. So that was nice to hear some more
Yeah,
stuff about it.
you certainly know somebody who has relator as well, and learning how to connect with them is important. Sarah?
Everyone likes the opportunity to share things about themselves. So sorry, you said Sarah, right?
I did, Sarah.
I'm also not a relator, but my one takeaway would probably be just to find an occupation that suits like my lifestyle and what I need.
Yeah, 100%. Your well-being, professional well-being is directly related to your enjoyment and the work culture of the place that you go to. Angelina?
I would say definitely like just kind of learning more about myself, and then like I've surrounded myself with, I feel like, a lot of other relators, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, excellent. Maddie?
I would also agree with finding a workplace that like suits the right culture or relator culture because so my job I didn't really realize like it is important for me to like have friends and people that I can go to and talk like during work, you know?
Yeah. As a relator, I can tell you my work has really suffered this semester because I'm alone often in the office. Like nobody else is there. And Brent will walk into the suite every now and then. I'll be like, person, let's talk. Like, oh my God, there's a person here. Can we interact? Because it's a lot of alone time. So it's temporary. It is temporary. Okay, in the chat, I put a link that opens up a form. You simply have to put in your student ID number and you will get credit. I will add that to Viking Central today. So by tomorrow, it will certainly show up in your report. Brent, any final words?
Yeah, I just think, transparency is one of the most important words with folks who have relator. And as you're a part of teams and as you find that workplace culture that works for you, like your transparency is what helps like create that glue and build those close friendships or close relationships within an organization. So don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be transparent, because that's what others like myself who are strategic thinking, like sometimes we don't always think of those things. So you bring such an asset to any team in any room you walk in. So don't be afraid to share that.
Thanks, Brent. And finally, Brent, thanks for years of helping us develop a strengths culture on campus. As you are moving on to a different experience at the end of this month, it's been great having you as a strengths partner on our campus. And thank you for the time, energy, and dedication you have given to Augustana in building our strengths culture. And stay in touch from Haver, Montana, where you will end up being for the next little bit of time at least. And everybody else, thanks for coming today. Well, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Have a great holiday, be safe, and we'll see you in January.